The Friday Rugby Preview with Stuart Cameron.
Hello and welcome to the programme, your one-stop guide to the club game in the Borders. And in the show I'm delighted to be joined by Robin Purdy, and we'll start with a brief recap of last weekend. In the Premiership we had two border derbies. Hawick won 61-0 at Jed Forest, Selkirk beat Kelso 21-19 at Poynter Park, so two away wins there. In National 1, Gala lost at home 28-15 to league leaders Ayr, while Melrose lost at second placed Highland, going down by 17 points to 11. In National 2, Peebles lost only their second game of the season with a 26-11 defeat at Newton Stewart, while Berwick's game at Aberdeen Grammar was postponed. It was a rest day for the East Leagues, but they're all back again in action this weekend. So Robin, we were at the Kelso-Selkirk game, a match which looked as if it was going Kelso's way at half-time. 3 tries in the bag and a healthy 19-7 lead, which could have been a bit wider if Murray Woodcock's try had been allowed, but fair play to Selkirk for fighting back.
Massively, Stuart. Selkirk will be absolutely delighted. Well, as was evident at the end of the game, the elation on the bench. I don't think even in their own heart of hearts Selkirk would have seen, or even the most diehard Selkirk fans that were at the game would have seen a victory coming their way at half time, because for all the world Kelso looked to have that one in the bag. 3 tries, half time, 19-7 as you say, and they were looking to kick on for a bonus point victory, and I think they'll still be scratching their head as to how that did not transpire.
Well, Hawick's win at injury-ravaged Jed Forest was expected, and Gala and Melrose fought well against the two top teams in National 1, but ultimately they lost, giving them both not a mountain to climb for the rest of the season, but let's say a rather large hill if they're going to be in contention for that promotion spot.
Yeah, I think so. We've spoken so often in the last couple of years about this, this division being the gift that keeps on giving, and I think Dale touched upon it in the podcast this week as well, that this season it's potentially not going to be the case, certainly not at the top, because with the best will in the world, it's still a 2-horse race, but I'd probably take a fool to bet against Ayr going up as champions and sealing that one promotion place. Gala, probably a season of change, a season of consolidation maybe for them. They've lost a number of bodies. Big Marius off the top of my head, Craig Dodds is not playing at the moment, Ewan Dodds is not playing, it would seem, so they've had to change a few. Melrose, 3 victories, 3 losses. Melrose are a funny one to be, because for me they need to get out this division at all costs. They need as a club to be in the Premiership. I would think, I think they'll think that themselves as well, and that's not going to happen this season, or it would take something dramatic to happen. It seems strange to say in what's still reasonably early in October, but there's 12 games left. Ayr are 12 points ahead of them. Melrose still need to go down to Millbrae. It would take some kind of miracle, more so because I don't see Ayr, or I wouldn't be at all surprised if Ayr go through this season unbeaten.
And it's interesting because we were talking about this pre-season. We were thinking, it's going to be Gala, it's going to be Ayr, it's going to be Melrose. Once again, the 3 of them are going to battle it out. One of them's going to succeed. And you look at the table now, and all of a sudden it's very, very different, because Highland are up there in second place. And we'll talk about Highland a little bit later on. But they've traditionally never been great travellers, but they've won a couple already away from home.
They have. They've always been very strong in their own patch up there. They've got like Melrose do. They've got the 3G pitch up there. But as you say, they've turned their fortunes round on the road. It would seem they've become a bit harder to beat away from home, and they've chalked up a couple of victories. So yeah, they are rightfully in second place. They're 6 points behind Ayr. They've still got Ayr to play a couple of times, I think. So yeah, it looks at this stage that Highland are going to be Ayr's number 1 challenger, you would feel. But I do, like I say, feel that Ayr. I've seen Ayr this season. I've seen them play against Melrose at the Greenyards, and they just look like they've got a bit too much about them for the rest of this division, I have to say.
And so to tomorrow's games involving Borders teams. Let's start with Hawick, who are at home to Musselburgh. It's a case of 2nd versus 5th, and let's hear from Green's head coach, Matty Douglas.
The last couple of weeks our defence has really went to another level, and look, we've got 3 home games coming up to finish the first half of the season, so look, for us, we're looking to gain as many points as we can and just keep the pressure on the top of the table. There's some big clashes in the Premiership this week, so for us, we just need to keep the pressure on, keep winning games, keep putting performances in. But Saturday will be tough. Look, Musselburgh have started the season really well, won their last 3 games, won twice in the Borders already this season, so look, we're not taking it lightly. We're working extremely hard at training this week and just again fixing the little things that we need to get right for Saturday. We're looking forward to the game, to be back at home and looking for another big home performance.
Musselburgh, of course, have won the games that they need to win. Big challenge for them, no doubt about it, at Mansfield Park.
The biggest challenge in the club game in this country is to go to Mansfield and win, and Musselburgh will experience that this weekend. In saying that, I've been really impressed by Musselburgh this season. They're picking up wins, and it looks for all the world like they're going to be a comfortable mid-table team potentially. And that's no slur, given where they've come from. Previous couple of campaigns, they survived last year by the skin of their teeth. They've picked up three wins already this season, plus a draw. So they look to be in a really good place. They've got some really good players. Hoyk, really impressive against Curry. They've been to Aki's and won. Yes, they came unstuck at Mar, but they've chalked off Mar away and they've chalked off Aki's away. Hoyk, for me, still the favourites. And yeah, I can see Hoyk winning this game. Of course, I can see them winning with a bonus point, but Musselburgh will be a tougher, sterner test than they probably were last season.
Well, Kelso at home tomorrow and will play Edinburgh Accies, who have slipped down to 6th position, losing at home against Hoyk and Curry, which was obviously a big blow to them. But Kelso out to make amends for last week's home loss to Selkirk. And here's Director of Rugby at Kelso, Neil Hinnigan.
This weekend we're missing a few players through one thing or another. James Glendinning and Grant Shields are both unavailable. Charlie Marshall picked up a bad injury last week, so he could be out for a good while. Robbie Tweedy got a slight head knock, and we just don't want to take any chances, so he's sitting this one out. Angus McGregor comes in at loose head. It's a huge positive to get him on the field again, get him another start, and hopefully he goes well. And then points are what we need now. We've been looking at performance, but maybe points is more important, so hopefully this weekend's our weekend.
Kelso against Edinburgh Accies, thoughts on this one?
This week in the Premiership, there are 3 games that look really too close to call, and this is one of them. Kelso will be looking to get stuck right into Edinburgh Accies on their own patch, and there's no reason that Kelso can't do Accies a bit of damage.
Selkirk, they're at home tomorrow at Philip Hoch, and they go up against a Heriots Blues side that are sitting in 4th position. Selkirk head coach Sesh Henderson.
We know what we can do now in terms of our attack shape and our defensive shapes. I think we just need to, we're working hard during the week to make that better all the time. Hopefully I've got a couple of injuries to come through this week, so there shouldn't be too many changes this week. Hopefully we're Saturday, we look forward to another good performance against Heriots, and it's all about getting points every week, and we're confident we can do that if we play to our standards that we can. So we're looking forward to that, and Saturday can't really come quick enough.
So that's another game which is really close to call. Heriots haven't won on the road yet, of course, and started slowly last weekend in their loss at Musselburgh. Selkirk potentially good enough to win this, but also had a slow start.
It's got very similar feeling to Kelso via Edinburgh Accies. It's a border team via City team that, again, Heriots have maybe, given where they finished last season, they've maybe exceeded expectations a wee bit this season. But you mentioned their form on the road's not been great, and yeah, tough one to call, but I think Selkirk will be targeting this game. Another victory on the back of the huge belief that they will have taken from last week's victory. If they can win again at home, then that kind of takes them clear. We talk, I mentioned earlier about league form within a league. They don't want to get within a league down at the bottom, get up into mid-table and move on from there. But I think this is definitely a game that Selkirk will be targeting.
Also in the Premiership, Jed Forest in last place are on the road to Balgrey to take on Glasgow Hawks, who are one place above them. Part of the Jed coaching team is David Grieve.
So on Saturday we played Hoyk with what was a really depleted squad. I think we had about 12 or 13 players unavailable, including 5 front rowers, which we really struggled to replace. We've not got a big squad, and just having that many players out, it's really not easy at the moment. Well, it was a bit of a mismatch. The first 15-20 minutes, we were actually in the game. We had a lot of possession, a lot of territory. The boys looked quite good out there, actually. And then kind of after that, Hoyt kind of got in their stride and they ran away with it in the end. Like, one of the things we said to the boys, though, before the game was just don't give up, play at the final whistle. And to their credit, they done that. Like, that was a positive for us. A few boys came in for their debuts. In the forwards, we had Hamish Stenhouse and Harvey Keefe. Hamish, he's an 18-year-old back row player. He looked good out there. He had a big work rate, and he's obviously going to one for the future. But Harvey, he's a pretty solid player, so that's a positive for us. In the backs, I thought Lewis Elder and Lewis Walker both had good games at halfbacks. It was their first game together. This week we're up to Glasgow Hawks. Hopefully we'll get hopefully 2 or 3 players back from injury, but we're just going to really have to wait and see till the end of the week.
Let's put this all into context then. As he mentioned there, Jed's injury list is absolutely huge. And while Hawks are in 9th place at home, they actually had a big win against Selkirk, and they got losing and try bonuses against Embrackes and the league leaders Mar. So at Balgrey, they're a different animal.
They have got 8 points to their name, to Jed's 2. So it's a basement battle, if you want to call it that. Jed, there's 12 games left. You feel that Jed probably need to win 3 at the absolute minimum, 4 probably at least to get themselves out of the predicament that they're in. One of those needs to be this weekend. If they don't pick up something reasonably tangible this weekend, then you do worry about their position in the division. It really, really pains me to say, because what I was also going to say is all credit to all these boys that are coming in. David touched upon it there. They've not got the biggest squad in the league. Let's give a bit of context to Jed. Jed's a town of 4,500 people. They're punching way above their weight in this division. There's boys coming in. Nicky Bates came in last weekend. It's a long time since he's played first team rugby, I believe. Neil Cook, one of the coaches, sitting on the bench, the second row. He's 44 years of age, and it's a long time other than in a coaching capacity since he'll have picked up a rugby ball. So all credit to these guys that are coming in. They're absolutely decimated by injuries, and let's not forget some of their top performers on the other side of the world as well, currently in New Zealand and in Australia, and they might be back in the fullness of time, and that will help. But yeah, Jed's squad's got such a different look about it this season to what it did last season when they were a comfortable finish in mid-table. But yeah, all credit to some of these boys that are pulling on the royal blue jersey at the moment.
Absolutely. Now, the other match tomorrow is the big one at the top end of the table, Mar against Curry.
It's the third game that's just extremely difficult to call. Mar look like themselves again after a wee bit of what they might class to be an underwhelming season. Last season they still made the playoffs, but obviously they were the champions the season before. Home advantage, possibly. I'm saying that having seen Curry at Hawick as well, where I thought Hawick were exceptional on the day, but I didn't feel that Curry fired all that many shots. So they've had a couple of weeks to lick their wounds, but I think Mar will be looking to get right after them on Saturday.
Well, let's move on to National 1. Melrose and Gala both lost last weekend against the 2 top teams in the league. Tomorrow it's Melrose at home to Glasgow Accies, and talking about this one is Melrose head coach Ian Chisholm.
I've got a lot of experience facing Glasgow Accies with my time at Highland and Peebles last season. We beat them twice last year with Peebles, and I think if I can come with the same sort of game plan and mentality into that, we'll have a good opportunity. And look, we're at the Green Yards. We love being at the Green Yards, as you've seen from our previous games, and if we kick loose to them, then we'll struggle. They're awesome in the counter attack, and look, a lot of our week has been built around kick chase and making sure we kick to compete, and that we give ourselves a chance to get the ball back by, rather than gifting them possession. We put the pressure into them. So excited to be back at the Green Yards, excited to put right a few wrongs, and the boys are just desperate to show what they're about. They're desperate to get their hands on ball, and look, at some point it's going to click for us. We're going to be able to at least get parity at scrum time, and look at from there. I think we'll be able to launch. And you look at the other games where we have had parity, or we've had a bit of dominance up front, and our backs are really dangerous. We're able to score a lot of tries. We're able to put the opposition under pressure through our running game and build pressure through possession. So sure, it'll be a really entertaining game. Both sides looking to throw the ball about.
Glasgow Accies done very well following their promotion from National 2. Both are on 17 points at the moment, but of course Accies have that game in hand.
They appear to be a club on the up. That famous promotion last season, of course, but in saying that, I think this type of game will almost be a summing up of where Melrose are at the moment. They might kick on from here, of course, but where they are at the moment, to me, is a team that will potentially flip-flop between really convincing home wins and away games where they'll struggle. Can see Melrose really giving some teams the message at the Green Yards, but as we've already seen this season, when they come up against the bigger packs, or if they have to do a bit of travelling or whatever, or if there's guys away doing this or injured or doing that. But they've still got an embarrassment of riches there. Look at the inside backs. Doug Crawford's back now. That's massive for them. But they've also got Bruce Colvin as well. So where do they all play? Struan Hutchison, Rolly Brett. Yeah, they've got Angus Runciman in the forwards as well. So Melrose are just going to need to almost win every game from here if they're going to challenge Ayr at the top of the table, and they've got Millbrae still to go. But they'll keep plugging away. But Ian alluded to the fact struggling at scrum time, and they'll be hoping the Canadian can shore this up.
Well, Gala, they're at home to Highland, currently in second position, and in the recent past, Highland have been very strong at home, struggling on the road. So far this season, though, they've done okay on the road with wins at Dundee and Biggar. But can they add Gala to their list of conquests? Well, let's hear from Gala Director of Rugby, Ewan Swinton.
Much to be confident about as we head on to playing a match against Highland this weekend. Highland are also going fantastically well. To be honest, that's a very welcome opposition for us. We can take them on in the forwards. I'm quite sure that we are seeing real improvements from the work that you and Robbie is putting in with the boys, and these improvements are going to continue. We have definitely got potential to be much better than we are currently showing. There's every reason to believe that we can get the better of Highland. So it's a game that I think people will enjoy watching. I think that there's the potential for a lot of tries. I certainly hope there are a lot of tries. I hope that most of them come the way of Gala. But I do feel very confident that despite Highland's better position in the league, that we can give them a very tough visit to Gala and come out of the game with a win.
That's Director of Rugby at Gala, Ewan Swinton, a man whose glass is always half full.
Very much so. He speaks very, very positively every week. Some of that positivity he'll be hoping will rub off on Gala. But I think this week, as I mentioned earlier, this is a bit of a season of change, if you like, for Gala, given that some of the players that they don't have that they had last season, some of the lads that have moved on. There's a lot of young lads in there now finding their way in senior rugby. But I do think this is a game that they can win. This is not an easy game for a team that's in second coming down. This is a real test of Highland's championship credentials, if you like. Lose this at Gala and there's too much daylight between them and Ayr, for my money, at least even this early in the season. So if Highland have got designs on being right there and actually genuinely challenging Ayr, this is a game they need to win on Saturday. But I think they could potentially come unstuck because Gal will be fired up.
In National 2 then, it's a rest day, but some games that were postponed last weekend due to the weather have been rescheduled for tomorrow, and that includes Berwick's game at Aberdeen Grammar. But as we'll hear now from forwards coach Paul Pringle, getting this fixture together for this week hasn't exactly been easy.
So last week we were due to play Aberdeen Grammar in what, even at this early stage of the season, was pretty much a crunch match for us. Unfortunately, it probably wasn't of any great surprise to us. And now we're into the journey heading north. We were called to tell us that the game had been called off. Very frustrating day for the boys. Obviously, it's a big commitment, a trip to Aberdeen, and a big expense to the club as well. So that was pretty frustrating, as we felt we were very much up for the game and we had a pretty strong squad. We have actually had news just today that we have to go back up to Aberdeen this Saturday, which is a really tough one for us, to be honest. We had applied for dispensation to the SRU. We were told, in line with the competition rules, we would have to play in the next available fixture, which is the standby date of this Saturday. Logistically, it's a massive exercise for us. So our bus company comes from about half an hour, 45 minutes south of Berwick. We've got to schedule in that. We've got to schedule a full day away. We leave at 8:30 in the morning. We also need to schedule in driver stops. And it just makes the whole thing a bit of a mammoth task. So for an amateur club to arrange this with a few days' notice is pretty tough going. I would say, as a coaching team, we're pretty frustrated by this. This is an amateur game, I think we need to remember. And with clubs struggling with playing numbers as it is, what was a standby week, guys were there. A lot of guys are having to cancel plans. A lot of guys are away on holiday with families. To try and gather a squad for this Saturday, and like I said, in a crunch match for us, is going to be really difficult. I appreciate the competition rules, but in some occasions it looks like there is a bit of a common sense approach being applied. So I see Falkirk Stu Mel was cancelled last week because of insufficient front row for Stu Mel, and it looks like they've been given additional time to let these players recover. I know that they're not rescheduled into the first available week. I would have hoped some sort of, the same common sense approach might have been applied to us, but unfortunately not. We're in a position now we just need to get up to Aberdeen and get the result. We're still waiting on confirmation of our logistics, like the bus travel, etc. As I say, we're waiting on final playing numbers. It may be a bit of a makeshift squad we need to take up, but I'm sure the lads that we pick will do their best.
Interesting one there, because Stirling County against Kirkcaldy both applied for dispensation and it was turned down as well. Just to add a bit of balance to this, the SRU position and the National Championship Committee position is to ensure all clubs are treated equally. No team will be granted dispensation if players are travelling to watch Rugby World Cup fixtures, as this is deemed as a social event and not classed in the same way as a traditional tour fixture. So where do you stand on this?
Oh, it's a tricky one. Paul's not happy, and I can absolutely see his point. I think there's more onus on it because of the geography, if you like, between the two teams. But I don't know, to me it seems really harsh on Berwick that through no fault of their own, they were, as he said, an hour up the road, had to turn and go back. And of course, players, amateur players, as he correctly puts it, are going to have plans this weekend. They didn't have a game. And now not only are they being told they need to go somewhere else in the borders or head up to Edinburgh or even the Central Belt, they need to get a bus back out and go up to Aberdeen with a depleted squad.
If one's available.
If one's available, yeah. Up to Aberdeen for an absolute crunch game, second bottom v bottom. I just really hope Berwick can go up there and get a result, and I think that would be justifiable for what they've had to deal with this week. To me it seems really harsh and maybe a lack of common sense, but to an extent I can see the Union's position on it as well.
Well, into the East Leagues now, and after a week off, all our 6 Borders teams are back tomorrow. Langham travel to Leith for their match, and we can hear from their head coach now, Craig Hislop.
This weekend we head up to Leith, a team that we've played against on a regular basis over the last few years. It's always been a tough place to visit. We had a week off last week. The week prior we had a tough battle against Linlithgow. We came at the wrong end of a 21-24 game. So we head up to Leith this weekend with a few changes, a few boys off with school holidays, but we're hopeful obviously of getting a result. Leith are not doing too well this season, so it'll be a valuable win if we can at this point in the season. So here's hoping we can get that win.
Langham doing okay in East League 1, but a third win this season is something that they'll definitely need tomorrow if they're going to be serious contenders in that league, with the likes of Haddington and Linlithgow both unbeaten 5 out of 5.
That's right, and they'll be looking at Leith's position in the table and hoping for exactly that, which would take them up to minimally 17 points and put them in there with the Foresters and the Broughtons. Looking at the table, Linlithgow, you mentioned there, Linlithgow are 5 from 5, and they were beat by a really tight margin, Langham, so all's not, they've lost 3 out of the first 5 games, but all's not lost down at Millentown.
In Division 2, bottom club Duns are at home to Livingston, one place above them, while Hoyt Lindeen travel to Dunbar, one of the big 3 teams in that division. We hear now from Lindeen's Gary Alexander.
After a week off for teams in East 2, last Saturday Lindeen were off to Dunbar this weekend for our 4th away game in a row. A fortnight ago we were at Pennycook, the unbeaten league leaders, and went down to a 28-24 defeat. So hopefully we can build on that narrow loss. Dunbar at home at Hull Hill, they're always a tough prospect. They've beaten us, done the double in fact, the last couple of seasons. Although pushed them really close at the Volunteer in January, only went down by 6 points this season. They've had big wins at home over the Quins and Duns. So as I say, that will be tough. But hopefully we will take something out of the game. We have got a few on holiday this week, but Matty Huggin, he makes a welcome return to the side. He's had a lengthy injury, hasn't actually played since pre-season. So as I say, we'll head off with hopes high that we'll take something out of the game at Hull Hill.
A big challenge for Lindeen there in a league dominated by Pennycook, Dalkeith and Dunbar, who are all in the driving seat for promotion.
Yeah, they are. They're duking it out at the top, but it's similar to the Langham situation, whereby if Lindeen can beat Dunbar, then it claws the gap between them. And again, similarly to Langham, they had a pretty close reversal against the team at the top that are 5 from 5. So again, Lindeen, they're not out of it yet.
Hoyt Harlequins, they're at home tomorrow to Christophin in the same league. 2 sides with similar records at the moment. Here's the Quins, Adam Hall.
The squad's looking forward to getting back into league action this weekend after a week off last week. The boys had a kind of easy week after the big win against Duns, but we're back to it this week and looking to get another win on the board against a team at a similar level in the table as we are, and it's at home, so we're hoping that we can get the right result.
Quins very successful last year, unbeaten in the league in fact, but they're finding they're going tough in East League 2.
Yeah, and that's to be expected. They've gone up a league, and it's as Adam alluded to there. This is a game against a team whereby there's only 1 point separating them, and there's only 1 point between them and the Lindeen above them as well. So we spoke about the Lindeen needing a win to kick on. It's exactly the same for the Quins, and they'll be hoping for the victory on Saturday.
So we wish them well against Kirstorfen. Well, finally into East League 3, Galloway are away at Lismore, but Earlston travel to Edinburgh Northern. Earlston, the only team in East League 3 who have won all their games, and the only unbeaten Borders side from the senior sides in the area. Their head coach this season is Cammy Hill.
Another great win over Galloway a few weeks ago, 48 points to 10, which was very pleasing and really good for the lads as well, because it's the first time they beat YM in a really long time, and especially by a score line of that, which was great. With no game last week, we turned our attention to Edinburgh Northern this weekend. Going into this game, we know the challenge is going to be a step up from what we've faced in previous weeks, as Northern have been challenging for a few seasons now, and they're always there or thereabouts. The recruitment always seems to be really good, so what we're going to come up against them, we'll just have to wait and see. From reports I've heard this season and last, they're a big pack and they're pretty mobile, so looking forward to that, because obviously our pack's really starting to come into their own now. They're really starting to gel, so this will be a good test to see how far we've come this season in that area. Team selection this week has been better than we thought, especially with 6 or 7 unavailable from the squad that faced Gala. The pack remains the same as the last 4 games, which is brilliant. In the back line, there's a few faces back that we're missing against Gala, so they fill in for the unavailable this weekend. But obviously it's really good to see the strength and depth we have at the club this season, regardless of the changes. We're going to Edinburgh really optimistic, and we're going with a really strong squad. So here's hoping we can continue the good start to the season.
He's certainly doing a good job, is Cammy Hill there, and good to see Earlston turning the corner after a couple of dodgy seasons, really.
Oh, great to see, absolutely. And it's another really tight one, because they're on 19 points, Edinburgh Northern are on 17. But Earlston, they've become free scoring this season. They're averaging around 40 points a game, and they're only conceding around 11. So 4 from 4, they're in a great place at the moment. They'll be looking again, another team looking to kick on Saturday.
I mentioned about Earlston being the only team who have won all their games. Of course, Trinity Accies at the top of the table, and Edinburgh Northern drew their match, and Trinity Accies have actually played one more, so they've got 22 at the top of the table. Earlston 19, as you said, and Edinburgh Northern 17. Don't rule out the Edinburgh University Medics as well, who have 14, but then you look below that, and Galloway just the 1 point, Lismore and Inverleith nothing.
Yeah, the 3 teams at the bottom unfortunately look a wee bit cut adrift from the Medics, so yeah, you don't see them sadly kind of challenging in the upper echelons of this division come the business end.
Well, we're live on Rugby Radio from 2:30 tomorrow, coming to you from the west of Scotland, bringing you coverage of all our Borders teams. We'll have television highlights of Hawick against Musselburgh on Sunday on Borders Rugby TV. And don't forget to check out our new Scottish Club Rugby podcast. Episode 7 is now available. There's the new website as well at rugbyradio.co.uk, and of course our main site for everything to do with Borders Rugby at bordersrugby.net. Do check it all out, and we'll see you on Rugby Radio tomorrow at 2:30. But for now, from Robin and me, good night.